Yo, today we're talking about anime sound design because I am absolutely obsessed with it. And to do that, we're going to break apart Megumin's explosion sound effects from the anime Konosuba. As someone who sound designs all the time for VTubers and the like, I love analyzing sound effects in anime like this. So, take out your pens and notebooks, and let's get started. Right as Megumin's silly incantation begins, we get this sort of low ringing type of sound, along with the strong gust of wind. This sound almost reminds me of a large bell being rung. Tonal harmonic sounds like this tend to have a very nice magical characteristic to them. To accompany both of these is a really low whooshy sort of sound. All of these together, combined with the on-screen visuals, give the sense of a large amount of energy starting to swell up in all directions. Shortly after this, we get lots of these unique little whooshing sounds, which remind me of a wind machine almost. It has that sort of car drifting, scrapey type of sound to it. These belt scrape type sounds pass back and forth between the left and right stereo channels for a while, which helps them give more movement to the sound for those of you listening on headphones. Not even a few seconds later, those sounds disappear and we get a more focused center of low wind gusts and light rumbles. This continues for a moment before we get a taste of this very magical sounding high ring consisting of a few different pitches that builds up slowly as the frog is shown in the center of the magical cast. As you may have already noticed by now, there's a ton of moving parts that all sort of ebb and flow together, sometimes only for a split second, that add a lot of variation to this insanely long cast time. I can only imagine how this conversation went at the studio. Yeah, so we want to make Megumin's cast like extremely long as a joke reference to all other kinds of fantasy anime. Okay. How long were you thinking? 30 seconds. Well, after our high-pitched ring fades out, we're greeted once again by those cool belt scrape whooshies from before. I like this a lot because the only thing I can think of while listening to these is this. Good job, gang. We're almost done with the cast. So now what kinds of sounds should we put in next? I'm just gonna reuse those weird scraping sounds we had before. What? You can't do that. You just used them like 10 seconds ago. Ow, ow, ow. Stop it. Ah! Upon raising Megumin's staff, we hear a low pass-by whoosh along with a really high-pitched synthetic sound that creates this casting sound effect. Something to note throughout this entire cast is that there's a lot of low sounds happening, which gives the impression that the cast is rather large. This has to do with the way that sound works in general. Lower frequencies carry more energy and are usually much larger in waveform size. Therefore, lower sounds, or sounds with more bass in them, tend to sound bigger or more powerful. There are other factors as well, but these are just a few to consider that are pretty common. Here's an exercise for those of you listening intently at home. Which impact sounds more powerful? This one? Or this one? That one was cut out. If you said Impact B, congratulations, you're correct. And if you said Impact A, you now have to hit the subscribe button as payment. Thanks, I don't make the rules, I just write them. wait, that doesn't make sense. As the camera moves to follow the sparkling star animation, we hear a matching set of spinny, ticking, glitchy type noises that moves across the stereo field to match the on-screen movements. It swirls around a few times to help match the spinning vortex of magic animation that's happening, before quickly dashing back and forth between the right and left ears as the attack closes in on the giant frog. This section of the scene is literally so insane in terms of sound design because there's so much movement going on. I was literally taking notes as I was making this video because it's just so cool how much movement was conveyed here with just a few sound effects. And finally, the big moment. As the attack comes swirling down at the frog, our glitchy sounds get louder and swoop a little towards the left. At the same time, we hear this sort of sucking in sound effect. If you take any really large impact with a super long reverb or tail off or anything like that and reverse it, it creates this sucking inward sound that builds up until the very end where it just cuts off really short. In our explosion scene, this pairs very, very well with the next frame, which is completely white. And now that I've told you about this technique, you will hear it in literally everything that you listen to. You're welcome. And lastly, we get a split second of silence, just a few frames, where all the sound effects just cut out completely and only the music is playing. This is a small, yet insanely huge trick that puts our current sound effect volume from almost 100 to 0 in a split second, which then makes the next explosive distorted impact absolutely massive in comparison. And that, my friends, is a small analysis of the sound design behind Megumin's explosion attack. If you liked the video, let me know down in the comments below if there's a certain scene you'd like to see broken down. A special thank you to the Patreon people over here who help support the channel. And if you'd like to help support or get early access to content, or both, check out the link in the description below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.